I would like to reconvene the school board meeting of March the 9th, 2021. We had an executive session earlier today. This evening, the invocation and pledge will be delivered by Member Kraus.
Thank you, Chairman. In light of the good work that our students do, Seminole County Council of PTA hosted their Reflections program. So rather than me speak, I wanted to feature the work of two of our students. There's two short videos. The theme this year was I Matter, and the first video is from Ellis Staton from Layer Elementary, and the second one is London Weaver from Haggerty High School. Congratulations, they're both finalists. Thank you.
Hey, Mom, Dad, can you please play with me? No, honey, we're making dinner. Go play in your room on your own. Aww. I don't matter anyways. Hey, what's wrong? Well, I just don't matter. What do you mean you don't matter? You matter for so much reasons. Well, like what? I'll show you. Well, first of all, you help people. If someone, like for example, if someone spilled their drink, you would wipe it up for them. And you also spread love, especially by giving hugs. And if someone's being bullied, you stand up for them. So you really do matter. You're right, I do. Thanks, sis, for showing me. You're welcome. I do matter.
Nothing more than human. I am sweat, flaws. I am veins, scars. I am human. Nothing more than human.
If you'll please rise and say the pledge with me.
Thank you, Member Kraus. Let the record reflect that all 5 school board members, superintendent, school board clerk, and school board attorney are present this evening. Board members, the roll call vote is Member Calderon, Member Sanchez, Member Kraus, Vice Chair Pennock, and then myself. Madam Clerk, do you have any blue forms? Okay, thank you. Dr. Griffin, do you have any agenda modifications?
I do, Madam Chair. First is the agenda for good cause is marked on the left agenda by a green flag named addendum item. And second, I'd like to remove from the agenda and move to the March 23rd regular school board meeting, items 2A, the Seminole County Public School Veteran of the Month, item 2B, the addition financial check presentation, item 2C, the 2021 Silver Spirit Award winner, and item 2D, administrator introductions.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any modifications? Member Calderon?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Sanchez.
No modifications, thank you.
Thank you, Member Kraus.
No modifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, and I have no modifications. Is there a motion to approve the agenda outline?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, do you have any school district highlights?
We do not.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock, please read the public comment statement.
The public input segment of this meeting is provided for the purpose of permitting persons to present specific matters to the board for its consideration and action or referral to the superintendent and his staff. The public input segment of this meeting is not open to presentation of campaign issues by political candidates, matters involving student disciplinary actions, pending employee disciplinary matters, or pending litigation. Each individual member of the public is limited to 3 minutes. A designated group representative may have up to 6 minutes.
Thank you very much. I have 2 forms right now. If there's anyone else that would like to speak, there are forms on the back table. Please bring them up to Ms. Moramus, our clerk. So I'd invite Dan Smith and then Kelly Shilson, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dan Smith. I'm a teacher and a resident of Seminole County, and currently I'm the president of the Seminole Education Association, and I'm speaking for... Tonight I'm speaking asking for your help. As you know, presently our teachers are hurting. Presently our teachers are making worry, and presently the stress level is just going out of control for them. Presently far too many of our teachers are close to leaving the profession entirely. And tonight I'm not going to speak on the pandemic or COVID at all, but I am refraining from that because presently we're in week 2 of the 2021 quarter legislative session, and once again, teaching as a profession is back. Now, believe it or not, in 15 days, it is going to be the 10-year anniversary of the signing of the Student Success Act, which changed things considerably here in Florida. But mainly for the purposes of that, what it did was it ended teacher tenure, and it put teachers on a performance pay schedule. Now, considering the fact, just not that it matters, but 11, and it was an unfunded, so it took a little bit of patching to get along there. But ever since then, our teachers are getting a little bit under stress every time there's a legislative session, because we're always about 12 weeks away from the wrong kind of bill that comes up, and they've been pretty bad, but this time they're just going over the line a little bit here. What we're talking about specifically right now is what we're asking for help is during this legislative session, one of our local boys here had sponsored House Bill 947, which is known as the dues and the uniform assessments, in attempting to, in this case, not just take away the teachers' rights, but this will take away their freedom, the teachers' freedom to decide on their own whether they want to join the Teachers Association or not. Specifically, lines 66 to 72 state that the deductions shall commence when the employer receives a signed deduction authorization form from the bargaining agent and confirms that the employee, electronically or otherwise, that he or she authorized the deductions of the uniform assessment. So really, in summarizing, what it says is, before, assuming this doesn't pass, we fill out the paperwork and we send it to the district for the deductions. The way this is written now, anybody who wants to join the association is first going to have to be contacted by the district for them to make sure and verify that they want to join it. Now, forget the fact that that sounds like they don't trust the teachers, but we have a pretty good spot in place, and we are monitored by the federal government. We're monitored by the by national labor laws, and we haven't had any, in Seminole, any issues or any complaints with that. Now, the favor I'm asking is, surprising, but although Scott Plakin does take my calls, and he's, I think, a gentleman, and he gives me more time than if positions were turned, but he doesn't actually take to heart what I'm saying. But I do know that many of you up here are big supporters, and I think with your help and together, if you could tell him that he's gone just a little too far, tell the commissioner they've gone just a little bit too far this time. Getting rid of the tenure, understood. Not paying the teachers, understood. But taking away their freedom to join a union unmolested is just a little bit too far. And some letters from you guys just stating your position on that, I think would go a long way, not just with the legislature, but I think it would go a long way with the teachers and leadership and everything to go through. Now, I know it's a big favor, and I don't like asking favors, but I've been trying to do this for a couple of years, and I'm not getting as far as I can. So I'm calling out the big guns, having no guns of my own, and that would be you up there. So any help that you could give us with this or any of the other 18 anti-teacher pieces that are on the legislative session, we would be grateful, and we would appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening.
Can you hear me? Since 1986, I have been a part of this community since then. I have put 2 kids through school. I have been a PTA president, a booster treasurer, supported my kids through all of their athletics. I really, in my business world, have supported Seminole County schools as well as a realtor. We're known for our schools. What happened last week, to me, was appalling. I'm not sure exactly what has occurred, but I feel that both candidates that applied for last week started, and the search needs to start over. Both candidates will now start, whoever is chosen, under a cloud. That has never happened in Seminole County, and I implore you to start that search over and get Seminole County in the best light possible for the school board, regarding the school board superintendent and the reverse vote that occurred last week. So I've always been a big supporter of Seminole County Board, the school board, and I'm just asking you, start this over. It's a hot mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Reski. Thank you.
A little bit difficult. I am also a Seminole County resident. I've raised our 2 children, and they have always been part of public school, even though we're a member of a very astute blue ribbon private Catholic school, and we've been proud to support public county school. I am also here to support the injunction into stopping the superintendent process. I am a part of a business world. I work for a Fortune 20 company, and it's appalling to think that process and rules were not followed, and to extend an offer of employment is a big deal in our organization. And I think that everyone is involved involved in their due process. However, to offer employment and then to take that back is responsible, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak on behalf of a person that I don't even know. I didn't really have any involvement in the candidacy. I think that how we've handled this is not the appropriate way, and I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you. Joyce Stricker, or Stryker?
All by face, I've not met you. All know my name, you've known my name out loud. I'm a mom. I've been a mom here for many, many years. And best school district in Florida, and Seminole County Schools. Email that I wrote to the board, and I'm going to read it to everyone. Hello, ladies. This is not Walt. I have nothing against Walt and all this. Hello, ladies. I'm writing to you about the recent fiasco where the school board rescinded its offer to Chad Farnsworth and gave Walt's position to Sarita Beeman. To start, I want to say I really don't care who takes Walt's position. He never ran the show all by himself, and everyone knows the principals run the schools. But the way this was done was so awful, I feel like I have to say something. Chad had teaching experience. Chad had superintendent experience. Doesn't. I'm a lawyer, but that sure doesn't make me qualified to be the leader of a school system. A group of Black community members from Sanford said, "We want the Black lady," so the school board said, okay, after the position was already offered to Chad. Meanwhile, Sarita quit her job as attorney when she lost the vote the first time, so you rewarded her throwing a tantrum with giving her a job. The school board has set off a firestorm of fighting among parents along racial lines. I hope that you will fix this, rescind Sarita's offer, start from scratch, put somebody high up in place as interim superintendent, require a supermajority on the next vote. You guys just told our kids that if you are Black, you are more than good enough. If you are white, you will never be good enough. And if you pitch a fit, you will get what you want. Shame on all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Moramus, you have additional comments?
Madam Chair, I had 5 comments submitted via email. The first comment comes from Lee Zai from Oviedo. As a father of 4 children who are in the public schools at Seminole County and an educator, I would like to thank the board for their leadership and hard work. I have watched the interviews of Ms. Beeman and Mr. Farnsworth on YouTube. I strongly believe that Mr. Farnsworth has the experience and qualifications for the superintendent position, while Ms. Beeman does not have sufficient knowledge and experience for the position. Talking to teachers and students and knowing their needs are crucial to the successful education in our district. Hearing from parents is also important. I think it would be appropriate to appoint an interim superintendent and start another search. Thanks, Lee. The next comment comes from Becky Ning. I'm the parent of a graduating Seminole County senior as well as a first grader. As a parent, I have extremely passionate personal views about the board's action relative to the recent superintendent selection process. However, I realize that my personal views are not relevant in this public forum and have no place being put forward as support for the selection of our superintendent. From a factual standpoint, I would like to point out the facts that at approximately the 4-hour, 32-minute mark of the March 1st, 2021 meeting, Member Kraus provided additional comments regarding the superintendent selection process. She referenced June or July WebEx presentations provided by Dr. Griffin concerning George Floyd and stated in part, that's what they mean when they say we walk the walk. They mean put someone in the position that looks like them. By doing so, Member Kraus openly stated that a factor in at least her own vote on this hiring decision was race. I believe that is a potential violation of the Title IX of the Civil Rights Act, which is intended to protect employees and job applicants from employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. I have several other issues with the same meeting that the time limit here will not allow me to cover. I provide those concerns to Dr. Griffin via email, and he responded that those concerns would be shared with the board, so it is my hope they will each be evaluated to determine whether there are issues of ethics or law that should be addressed. It seems that in the interest of integrity, this decision should be stayed until a full investigation into the decision-making process is complete. I will share just this one personal opinion. I believe that the only way this board can restore trust and goodwill within the community is to start the search process fresh and select a new pool of candidates. Thank you for your time. Best, Becky Ning. And Becky is from Longwood. The next comment comes from Alexa Brandafino, also from Longwood. To whom it may concern, this email is in reference to the superintendent voting process. As a resident and parent in Seminole County, I do not approve of the conduct in which some school board members have conducted themselves. As parents, we deserve to know how the rescinding of a vote and revoting was legitimate. Per Robert's Rule of Order, it was not handled appropriately. As a taxpayer, I suggest the school board start over and bring in a third-party search firm to vet and choose the appointee from new applicants, mainly based on the teacher and parent surveys that went out. This is unacceptable. Faith needs to be restored in our board and the integrity of the process. Thank you, Alexa Brandafino. The next comment comes from Kari Jones from Longwood. After watching numerous board meeting videos, I find it odd and alarming that on February 23rd, Chairman Allman has never asked if any board members have comments they'd wish to address before they move to public comments. I'd like to remind you all that per the Florida Sunshine Law, you are not permitted to discuss with one another anything that could go to a vote or is going to a vote outside school board meetings per the agenda. I find it disappointing that a once legitimate process has now been tainted as illegitimate. Dr. Calderon stated, "I don't feel it's fair to anyone to come into this position with a 3-2 vote. But how is it fair now? This is your vote, and you have a duty to the people of Seminole County to vote based on qualifications, surveys, and your own due diligence. We have an odd number of board members for this very reason, so they can cast their own vote, and have a majority, not to try and persuade others that the need is a supermajority. Dating back as far as 1980, the last 4 superintendents all had educator and administrative backgrounds. That should speak volumes as to the standards we have always had when looking to fill our superintendent role versus the standards we currently have. Of the previous superintendents, 2 of them had been internal candidates. Dr. Vogel and Dr. Haggerty were both external candidates, and they both played pivotal roles in making SCPS a high-performing district. Dr. Haggerty has left a long-lasting impression, as there is a high school named after him. They both were from different school districts and laid most of the main foundation of this district when they were superintendents. The idea that only someone with SCPS can make it great would be incorrect, but the idea that someone with educator and administrative background is a clear common denominator in our past superintendents. One life has been stripped from being the first appointee for SCPS superintendent, while the other has a potential position that was wrongfully appointed. I would, at this point, urge you to have an interim superintendent if Dr. Griffin chooses not to stay, and hire a third-party firm to come in and take over the entire process down to the last candidate, to allow for transparency, avoid conflicts of interest and emotions that are not based off an interview and resume qualifications. The people of Seminole County deserve better. And the last comment comes from Haley Eldeff, also from Longwood. After the past few weeks and votes on the next superintendent, the confidence in a transparent and fair process by the board has been shaken. At this time, a third party is requested to conduct an audit and fresh start of the process of a replacement for our superintendent. The candidates have now unfortunately become tainted and our county divided in what has become an unwanted spectacle for SCPS. Please consider inviting in a third party for the next steps in healing this division that has been created. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes public comment. There are no items removed for separate consideration. Dr. Griffin, do you have a recommendation for discipline hearing?
Yes, but consent agenda?
Yes.
My recommendation is that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you.
My recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County approve the student disciplinary recommendations from February 22nd, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, do you have any new business?
No new business, but I have 4 items in the superintendent report, 3 of which are read-only, but I did include the draft job description for the Executive Director of Legal Services if you all wanted to discuss that.
Thank you. So board members, if you want to raise your hand to comment, or if you want me to call on you, we've all had a chance to review the application independently.
Madam
Member
Chair,
Sanchez?
I have nothing to add. The things that I had requested are on here.
Okay, thank you. Mine also. My comments are included.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Member
Are we
Press.
going to discuss the specifics? There was question over 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Is that where we do
can,
this now?
sure, absolutely.
Okay. If it's okay, I don't want to go out of order.
No, please.
Okay. So my recommendation is the 7-year mark. My recommendation is that they would report to the superintendent and school board. And I think that was the only other specific that I needed to address. Yes, I think that's all.
Okay.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else want to comment?
Those are the 2 items. I recommended the 10 years, which seemed to be consistent with a lot of the area surrounding job application or job descriptions. And since our duty to hire the person, I feel it is also our responsibility to have that person report to us and not to the superintendent. So that was my recommendation.
Okay. In addition to the amount of time, I added knowledge of the government and the sunshine laws, including public meetings and public records law. Inform and update the superintendent and board members and superintendent on impending and ongoing litigation. Things that really are already happening, but it's good to have them in this job description. Annual review of the cases that are active and have been closed. Review and monitor the annual budget for the Office of Legal Services with communication to us, which is great. Conduct oneself in the best interest of students in support of the district's mission. Any other?
My comments were all added into the job description as well. And as far as the length of service, I agree with Mrs. Pennick that the 5-year that we currently have, I felt was too short. So whatever the will of the board is, I could go with 7 or 10 years. I just don't know in the legal community if there's a certain cutoff of where you feel that experience is. And then I agree with reporting to the school board. I was surprised when I read the sample job description that it was reporting to the superintendent when this body actually hires the legal counsel. So that would be my preference as well.
Thank you. Dr. Griffin, is that enough direction for you?
It is, just clarity, 7 years or 10 years?
I can go either way also. I'm good with 7.
I'm fine with 7.
Mrs. Pennick, did you have a reason for 10? You seem to have done additional research because I could go either. I think just with the complexity of education law, sunshine, government, 5 to 7 years, you're getting your feet wet, you're really getting into understanding. And I think 10 years just gives us the exceptional quality that we're looking for. We are an exceptional school district, and I think that we deserve that exceptional level of history in the role.
Could I ask a question of our legal counsel?
Please.
I know there's an organization of educational attorneys around the state that you meet regularly. Do you know the tenure of many of those leaders in those positions? My only concern is if we have a really great candidate with 9.5 years and, they don't apply for that, I don't know, but maybe this is the standard that you really need to be in that job for a decade to be able to lead a district of this complex nature.
I think from my experience with that organization, it seems to vary. I mean, some of the more senior members obviously have been in 20-plus years, but the organization itself accepts anyone with any type of experience level. So I think there are some that go all the way down to at least, perhaps even less. From what I've seen, I would say the school board attorneys generally have at least 7 to 10 years. I mean, that would be.
Board members, would it work if we went with 10 years legal experience preferred? That would give you a little bit of flexibility, so you're not just one?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm
Sound
okay
good?
with that.
Yes.
Okay, I'll prepare your comments and bring a copy to the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're at a point for board member comments or committee comments. And Dr. Calderon, you'll remember we used to have this on the agenda twice years ago, and we found that we never used it, and perhaps we'll consider again going to comments twice where you can comment or ask questions or whatever you choose to do, and then do your final committee reports at the end. Okay, so Member Calderon.
I'll just report last night, the Insurance and Wellness Committee met, and we are in the process of going out to get prices for the auxiliary insurance that our employees can partake. We had an update on our claims reports from Ben at Cigna. As we know, we've been getting a lot of wellness emails for everybody doing the Walt Walk and our fitness tracking, but also there's a reward for our employees that Cigna has now with Fitbits. If any employee wants to go through their website, they get a 25% discount on Fitbits and no postage or anything like that. Got a vaccine update as our employees have been notified that they are the ability to go to the pod either at the Sanford Civic Center or many other venues such as Publix and CVS and Walgreens around the state to get vaccinated. And some of our employees did take advantage of changing their FSA accounts. I reported in our last board meeting that our team offered that to our employees, and a handful did take advantage of that, so I was grateful for that. And I will pass.
Thank you. Member Sanchez.
First, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the press conference that I had today with House Bill 359, Senate Bill 886. That's the bill that I had brought to attention of the Central Florida Coalition about asking for us to use FSA for a diagnostic tool only and for data purposes to see where our children have their gaps in learning and where their strengths and weaknesses are. There were 12 people on the call, along with Representative Robin Bartleman, who helped, and Angie Gallo from Orange County School Board. And we had a wide variety of teachers, PTA, superintendents, teachers. I represented teachers, and we all spoke on behalf of why FSA needs to be used only for diagnostic measures, and praying and I explained to them that we're losing teachers left and right. The anxiety levels are through the roof, and that we need to do what's best for our children and our students and not teach to a test, but let our teachers teach. So that went really well, and there were quite a few reporters on there, so I'm sure many people will be able to see it, but also please, please, please write to your senators and legislators representatives, and I have a list of phone numbers. I'll probably put it on social media, or we'll figure out what way we can get it to everybody. Please call them, let them know how important it is. We've been asking for this since day one, since school started, and we're still waiting for our answer. Coalition meeting yesterday, we basically talked about medical marijuana and how our policies need to be addressed with that, and zero drug tolerance. And then Central Florida Zoo, I have a meeting tomorrow with that. And then my Seminole Cultural Arts Council, we're just organizing all of our fundraisers, getting ready to kick off this fundraising for that. And that's about it. Thank you. So please, please, please write to your legislators about all the bills that are going through, the one Mr. Smith has mentioned about as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Krause?
Thank you. We all participated in the Employee of the Year recognition here at the ESC. It wasn't a drive-through, but it was almost a drive-through. They came by and were greeted with celebratory congratulations and goodie bags, and that was really fun. I attended the Nemours hosted event on COVID in our athletes in the school district, and based on what the doctors are seeing there, their recommendation that I'm bringing to you is that any student that has tested positive for COVID and wants to play high school sports should have an EKG along with their physical. That was their recommendation and takeaway. I attended virtually the Good Morning Seminole through the Maine Chamber of Commerce, and they recognized Dr. Griffin's many years of service. I don't want to speak too much because I'm sure some of you will speak to that too, but they read passages from children's books to him and how they related to Dr. Griffin's life. It's always fun to celebrate. We also attended the Oviedo Winter Springs Chamber, where they presented a Lifetime Achievement Award to Dr. Griffin, well-deserved. The Business Advisory Board is working on a survey for teachers and staff, exactly what you said, the mental health component of what this year has taken from our teachers and staff members. So we'll be anxious to get that final form and out to our staff members. Today, we finally got to do the ribbon cutting for Stenstrom Elementary, the Intermediate Learning Center, and that is fabulous. If you get the chance to schedule a tour once everything is safe, it's an amazing building. And then finally, I would like to, in the need for transparency and without malice, we were informed that a board member requested fact-checking on one of, or several of the many speakers that addressed our special meeting. And as a result of one of the speakers, number 25, the staff reported back to us with data that I would like to be read into the public. Can we have a staff member respond to what they sent to us? And this is the findings from the fact-checking of that speaker, number 25. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Krause. Good morning, or good evening, board members. I know it's been a long day. On March 1st, 2021, Kesha Kroom, a member of the public, provided a comment letter to the board, which was public comment number 25. In her letter, Ms. Kroom highlighted a number of findings identified by the State of Florida Auditor General in various audits at both the Bradford and Lake County school districts during the superintendent candidate Chad Farnsworth's tenure in key leadership positions at those districts. So this summary was in response to a request for fact check regarding the information provided by Ms. Kroom. Overall takeaways, number one, all of the findings were in fact true and occurred under Mr. Farnsworth's tenure. Mr. Farnsworth was the Bradford County School District Superintendent from November 2012 through November 2016 and had been or has been Assistant Superintendent of the Lake County School District since February of 2017.
Each of the findings in the letter occurred at the respective districts during the times that Mr. Farnsworth held those leadership positions. I would like to point out, as a former auditor myself, not all findings are equal. While all findings are important to note, some findings are generally a little bit weightier than others in terms of potential internal control issues and implications. For example, a one-time clerical error, a loss of a file, these things occur from time to time. They're not uncommon. So these may not be indicative of a fundamental operating issue. However, when the same findings are repeated in multiple reports or the findings have serious financial consequences, they should be scrutinized because we would expect those to have tighter controls. The other thing I wanted to point out is there were a lot more findings than Ms. Kroom pointed out, so she was selective in pulling these. So with that being said, the rest I have is the summary and comparison of the findings with the reports and the commentary. The Kroom letter, one of the findings was that the district had not established procedures to ensure the respective district and employee contributions for health insurance agreed to the board authorized amounts. District records supporting the monthly reconciliation of the health insurance billings to the district and employee contributions indicated that district contributions exceeded the board authorized amounts by a total of $446,730 for 205 instructional employees and a total of $339,832 for 153 non-instructional employees. As such, the district contributions exceeded board authorized contributions by a total of $786,562, and the 358 employees' premiums were underpaid by the same amount. So this was in the the Bradford County. This was one of the comments that Ms. Kroom had brought to our attention. I was able to locate the findings in two operational audit reports from the Auditor General. The 2015-138 operational audit finding number 2 for fiscal year 2013 and 2014. That finding states that employees did not inform the board that there was a discrepancy between the board-approved retiree premium rates and the rates that were in the insurance carrier agreement. Further, the district personnel paid the above the board-approved rate on behalf of the retirees. So the total unauthorized payment by the district on behalf of the employees during the 2013-14 fiscal year was $132,501. The same or a similar finding was found in the 2016-2016-145 operational audit for the following fiscal year of 2014-15. The finding in that report states that the board had established a minimum board contribution for instructional staff, but did not address whether any amount above the minimum should be paid and on what basis on behalf of instructional personnel. The Auditor General determined that district personnel paid amounts in excess of the minimum, and there was no documentation or other evidence to indicate who had authorized the excess payments. The total amount paid in excess of the authorized minimum was $782,562, and $82,219 was paid from federal funds, which created an additional finding on their federal funds audit. I would note that during this time, the district budget for Bradford County was $32 million. Their general fund ending fund balance in both years was approximately $1.6 million. If we look at the findings in 2014, that's about 8.43% of the general fund for the 132,501. In 2015, however, the 782,568 was about 48% of the general fund balance. In addition, the inappropriate use of federal funds to fund contributions that are not board approved extended to 35 federally funded employees across 6 federal award programs. The district is required to notify the grantors, which would include the Florida and the U.S. Departments of Education, for example, and restore the monies to the programs to the extent that they were deemed unallowable. The second finding in Ms. Kroom's letter for Bradford County, several teachers did not meet state requirements governing certification, school board approval of out-of-field teacher assignments, or notification to parents regarding teachers' out-of-field status. I was able to locate these findings in the FEFP audit 2016-024, Schedule D, findings 1, 2, and 8 for 2013-14, as well as in report 2017-207 for the FEFP audit, Schedule D, finding 5 for fiscal year 2015-16. In the 2016-024, a total of 5 teachers, 3 high school and 2 VIP, were not properly certified and not board approved to teach out of field. Parents were not notified of the teacher's out of field status. 2 of the teachers were in fact board approved to teach out of field in homebound, which is not a certification area. In 2017-207, the finding was that 1 virtual school teacher was not properly certified to teach out of field. The third finding identified for Bradford County in Ms. Kroom's letter. A recommendation was made that the district management should ensure that all bank account reconciliations are timely completed, reviewed, and approved. This was the result of an accounts payable processing bank account balance exceeding by $810,215, the related general ledger cash balance of $1,913,228, and there was no documented reason for the difference. According to finance personnel, they were unaware of the unreconciled difference, they were aware of the unreconciled difference, but had not investigated the reason for the difference. In October 2015, 4 months after the June 15 bank statement, the finance director determined that the difference represented outstanding checks that were not previously included in the bank account reconciliation. There was no evidence that supervisory personnel had independently reviewed and approved any of the reconciliations. I was again able to confirm this finding in 2 audit reports. The 2015-138 operational audit report, finding number 1 for fiscal year 2013-14. The 2016-145 operational audit, finding number 1 for fiscal year 2014 and 15. In 2015-138, in fact, no bank reconciliations were conducted for 4 months and no review of reconciliations occurred during the year. The finding in this case, though, was related to an issue that no backup staff had been designated for somebody who left on extended leave. The reconciliations for fiscal year 2014 were ultimately completed and reviewed within 90 days after the fiscal year end. In the second report, there were 2 issues. One was the unresolved discrepancy in accounts payable as described by the commenter. And the other was, again, a review of bank reconciliations during the fiscal year. In that 2014-15, the discrepancy was ultimately resolved again in October 2015. The second finding, however, is a repeat of the first finding with regard to review, and one suspects that had a review process been in place, they might have identified the discrepancy timely. So when we talk about repeat findings, that's one of the things that we would look for. The fourth comment on Bradford County in the Kroom letter, non-compliance related to the reported FTE was found. I was able to confirm this finding in the FEFP audit report number 2017-207, Schedule D, in findings 1 through 4 for fiscal year 2016. The summary of the Auditor General findings: there was a student file that was missing an IEP. There was an entire ESE student file missing. Time cards for career ed students were missing, and missing IEP for an ESE virtual student. The proposed net effect of this was a net adjustment to FTE totaling negative 0.6664. The potential on the overall district was negative 0.6697. Finding number 5 in the Croom letter. Contrary to state law, the district did not offer part-time virtual instruction for kindergarten through grade 5 students. State law requires the district, because it is located in a sparsely populated county, eligible for special funding pursuant to state law, to provide all students with the option of participating in part-time and full-time instruction within the district's virtual program. I was able to again confirm this finding in Report 2016-145, the operational audit finding number 6 for fiscal year 2014-15. The district provided all students the opportunity, in fact, to participate in full-time virtual instruction. However, only students in grades 6 through 12 were provided the opportunity to participate in part-time virtual. District personnel did indicate that part-time option was unavailable through their district provider. Finding number 6 in the Croom letter for Bradford County. Contrary to state law, the district did not prominently post on its website the required budget information for the fiscal year. I did confirm this in Report 2016-145, Operational Audit, finding number 3 for fiscal year 2014-15. The district budget information was in fact available to the public through the board agenda package. However, it was not prominently displayed on the district's website, which is what caused the finding. This was corrected prior to the issuance of their audit report in May 2015. For Lake County, Ms. Croom had 2 observations. The first, that required background screenings were not always obtained for instructional and non-instructional employees. I was able to confirm this finding in Report 2018-200, Operational Audit for Lake County, finding number 2, fiscal year 2016-17. Of the 30 employee records that were tested, 12 employees were timely background screened until 12 of the employees were not timely background screened until 21 to 252 days, or an average of 85 days after the employee's previous 5-year background screening had elapsed. Four employees had not been background screened at least once in the past 5 years. After the Auditor General's inquiry, the screenings were conducted on the 4 employees who had not yet been screened. Finally, the last comment on Lake County that Ms. Croom brought to our attention, a recommendation was made that teachers are properly certified, or if teaching out of field, are timely approved by the school board to teach out of field. Parents are timely notified when their children are assigned to teachers teaching out of field. Out-of-field teachers earn the in-service training points required by SBE Rule 6A-6.0907 or 6A-1.0503 FIC, and the teachers' in-service training timelines. Again, I was able to confirm that this finding existed in Report 2020-021, Schedule A, Summary, and in Schedule D. Findings 4, 11, 12, 13, 18, 22, 23, 28, 29, 30, 35, 36, 37, and 38 for the fiscal year 2017-18. 17 of the 148 teachers tested did not meet state requirements governing teacher certification. The board approval of out-of-field teacher assignments, notification to parents regarding teachers' out-of-field status, or the earning of required in-service training points in ESOL strategies. None of the 17 teachers, with exceptions, taught at charter schools. So that was the extent of the information provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Kraus, does that conclude your comments?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair Pennock?
I did not have any committee meetings. I do have our audit committee meeting on 3/26 that we will be reviewing the responses to the RFP for the internal auditor outsourced contract. Thank you, Dr. Griffin, for having me on the medical advisory board. A couple weeks ago, we did talk about EKGs. I did not follow up with him. That just triggered me to do that. And we also discussed EKGs and some of the issues with those. Spring break is next week. I just wish every teacher and student to have a nice break. And I do have a question about the timeline of the legal services. If we're bringing back the job description at the next board meeting, what is the timeline or what is the process for filling that role?
Once the board approves the job description, which I'm assuming will be the 23rd, we can go ahead and advertise that position the next day.
How long will it stay open? Will we receive, who's going to be involved in that process?
HR will oversee the whole process and keep you informed along the way. I'm assuming they're going to advertise it for 5 to 10 days.
Okay, and are we interviewing if they report to us, or how? I guess I would like to understand that whole process. Is it going to be similar to how we went through the superintendent process?
I think we really could discuss that right now if you'd like before we bring it forward. I don't recall when we hired Ms. Beeman as a school board attorney, I believe each board member had time to interact with the candidates and then made a recommendation, but we could set it up anyway at this board's pleasure.
Okay. So we're looking at that person coming in. How long is the timeline that we would advertise for applications?
Yeah, probably for 10 days, so that would take us through the end of March to early April, right? Probably like April, 5th to 7th, to advertise the position, do the necessary days for interviewing, and then offering a position.
So then is Sarita staying in her until we fill that role?
Yes, I don't have the dates.
I'm worried about not having coverage in the legal services.
Yeah, we'll make sure there's coverage, and we'll share that whole timeline with you. Yeah. It's an important concern.
That's it.
Thank you. Typically, the Exceptional Student Support Services has a transition fair where they bring community resources out and the families visit, and it's an all-day. They just go along a schedule and get a lot of support for their kids. Last week, every single evening, Monday through Friday, they held a virtual opportunity. I got to sit in for only one evening, and they talked about Project 10, and it was planning for post-high school and all the different options that are out there for kids and how many years they can be supported and have internships and really have an opportunity for a bright future. And it was really a very uplifting conversation. And I appreciate all that's done in that exceptional student support department. That's all I have. With no, Member Calderon?
I think Ms. Pennock made a good point, and since time seems to be of the essence with hiring a school board attorney, that we might want to talk amongst ourselves at least now, so HR knows what our goals and our vision are for this hiring process. If I remember correctly, the last time we hired a school board attorney, we individually read all the applications, and then I think we settled on maybe 4 candidates that we brought in, and we had individual interviews with each of those 4 and then came back and discussed. But in that we've changed the job description, we haven't voted on it yet, but I would like at least, I don't know whether it's HR or somebody else, do the, lack of a better term, a background check of the person to make sure that, you know, their degree is from an accredited institution, you know, do public records request of whatever school district that they're already in, because those are the kind of things that I think it's harder or more cumbersome for us to take, so I don't know if we wanted to have an open discussion now of some of the other.
Mr. Carnes is nodding yes to what you're saying.
Oh, okay. I didn't see him out there.
Mr. Carnes,
I
come on
think
up.
we're all in agreement there.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the last time we went through this, what we did is we advertised in a series of publications for our school board attorney. All of that came back to us in HR. We did exactly what you said, Dr. Calderon, was we vetted them to make sure they met the qualifications for that. Then we gave you all the resumes, and then you determined which ones that you wanted to interview. And then we set up interviews for you all. And then at a board meeting, you made your selection by ballot at that time. So we'll run it. We'll probably need to run it at least 10 days if we're going to reach out to these other publications so we can get that back. And then when we get all of that, we'll vet them for you, and then you all can choose which ones that you wanted to interview.
Thank you. Good, Dr. Calderon?
Yeah, I just didn't know if that's the typical process for an attorney. We heard, speakers tonight, I don't know if there's a legal organization that goes out and recruits or whatever the case may be.
I'm not aware of any organizations that do that. I mean, there are probably private organizations kind of in the line of headhunters that do it for any employee person. I know there are ones that do that for the legal profession, but I'm not sure it's the kind of vetting that you guys are talking about. They all know how headhunters work, and that's typically
Okay. So with no further business, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.